Rolando Blackman's reaction says it all. The four-time All-Star representing the Mavericks as they win the draft lottery for the first time in franchise history. And you know how quickly the Mavericks said, yeah, we know who we're going to take. That is Mavericks CEO Rick Welts, wasting little time to go meet Cooper Flagg here in Chicago. As we take a look at the draft order, a handful of surprises. The Mavericks jumping to number 1. The Spurs as well jumping into the top 4. They get the second pick. The Sixers holding their pick and moving up to number 3. And then you see the Hornets, Jazz, Wizards, Pelicans in the top 7 here on the set. And Bob, again, there were notable gasps the entire night as we heard pick after pick. And then we had Rick Welts right here, smiling big here. Your reaction to the Mavericks winning this lottery?
First of all, every league should do a lottery. I think the NFL should do a lottery. Baseball, it's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that the Mavs, who no one was talking about, ended up with the number 1 pick is theater by itself. But this is what this does, and you guys know this. I don't want to start speculation, but you don't think you could trade that pick? You could trade that pick for any player. And Dallas's timeline, this is what's interesting, and you always want optionality. Dallas is kind of built to win now with Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving. They could explore that, which is crazy. I don't think any of these other teams would even be looking at trading that pick. But otherwise, if they don't, they've got a fantastic player, Cooper Flagg. Great options. What a night for the Mavericks. The last 3 months, they've been getting destroyed.
Yes.
So for them, you know what? Congratulations.
Hey, ticket sales and the phone is finally ringing in a good way for Nico Harris, and they need that kind of news. You know, the Mavericks weren't the only winners. There are a handful of other teams here, Shams.
San Antonio jumping also along with Dallas and Philadelphia keeping it. But San Antonio having 2 picks here in the lottery, jumping up to number 2. That gives Brian Wright, their general manager, and new head coach Mitch Johnson, they have a lot of optionality there. And whether they go with Dylan Harper at number 2, they're going to bring in prospects there to compete for that number 2 spot. But Dylan Harper, of course, if that's their pick, but they can also be aggressive in the trade landscape. We were going into this talking about Giannis and Antetokounmpo. Well, this is 2 high-level picks the Spurs have at their disposal. The Sixers, they hold their pick, and they consider that a win.
What's the word we've been using? Optionality, that's the word?
That's a good word.
Okay, cool. Well, they have a lot of options as well, right? But Daryl Morey is on the clock, in my opinion. Like, you have Joel Embiid, who I believe is not going to be healthy for the rest of his career. You have a young superstar in Tyrese Maxey. Now you have the number 3 pick. You have Paul George. What are you going to do with this number 3 pick? Are you going to actually draft a player, or are you going to move and try to move some pieces to build? Because we all know this, and you know this, Kev, right? This is about championships, right? And especially after the Eagles won the Super Bowl. No, I'm serious.
What's that have to do with anything?
Because it does. Because, listen, when you play in the city, it puts pressure on the other organizations to win championships. So, I mean, it's a good spot to be in, but they got to make sure they do the right thing with that number 3 pick, and it's going to be interesting to see what Daryl Morey and Elton Brand do with it.
To his point, the 3rd pick has some value. This is a draft that has a ton of talent, especially in the lottery. What makes Cooper Flagg so special?
You know, he's a franchise-elevating, maybe even franchise-changing player because he performs at a really high level at both ends of the floor. As good as he is offensively with his size, his skill level, he's equally as impactful on the defensive end. He can guard multiple positions. He blocks shots. He gets steals. He's got a great feel and understanding of the game, a great aptitude for the game, and he's only 18 years old. I mean, we haven't seen even close to what his ceiling is going to be, but I think the thing that sets him apart more than anything is this motor and level of competitiveness that he has. Look, we talk about a lot of prospects that they're all competitive. But he's on the highest tier of competitive nature, and I think that's going to serve him really well. And it just shocks me. He's only 18 and doing all this. He's got a really long runway in this game.
By the way, there have been 4 Duke players in the common draft era taken number 1 overall, and Cooper Flagg well on his way on June 25th, and he would join a guy that went number 1 and played at Duke, and that is Kyrie Irving. My goodness, at least for now, Shams Charania's phone is going to continue to blow up as we enter the summer. Never say never, not if you're a Mavericks fan, because Dallas has finally won the lottery for the first time in franchise history.
NBA